So I never thought this podcast would happen. I do want to give Ryan Pineda a shout out for making the connection. But we've got the one and only Brandon Turner here. Brandon, how
You
you doing?
do?
Yes,
I'm
the
good,
man, the
man.
myth, the legend himself. How are
Oh,
you?
oh man. I'm good, man. I'm good. I got an 8-week-old baby. We're sleeping. That's almost sleeping through the night. So like, does life get better? I don't know. It's pretty great. So
So give us an inventory. So you've got the 8-week-old, but what else?
8-week-old. Yeah, I got a 5-year-old named Wilder, and he is as wild as his name suggests. It's great. He's a little Tarzan kid. And then I got Rosie, whose name suggests she is cute, loves tea parties, and then a beautiful wife, Heather. So we are a full family now, and it is insane going from 2 to 3 kids. I did not quite expect that level of involvement, but
you've got to play zone defense now. You no
That's
longer
what it
got
is.
man to man.
That's what it is. It has been. It's like Heather does man to man with Gilly, the new baby. So like they're just like off doing their thing, like babies do. And so all of a sudden I got 2 kids all the time. It's like getting ready for school and do this. And I'm like, oh, I'm not used to this. Heather does this usually, but now it's just on me. I'm learning how to be a dad, which is great. So
there you go. Well, let's get into the drama and why I thought this podcast would never happen. I've shared with my audience for the last 5 years, and I think I've said this exact quote: "I hate Brandon Turner."
Dude, I can't wait to hear this. I have no idea what's coming.
Yeah, let's just put it out there. So,
all right, I cannot wait.
So, first and foremost, as I've told my audience, you have no idea why this guy on the West Coast hates you, why he has said that, because the stuff that happened, as I will go through it in detail, probably never even hit your radar, but it meant a lot to me, and hence I buried it.
I was a bit, and by a bit I mean a lot, probably an immature ass back in the day. So whatever's coming, I deserve, and I'm okay with that.
Well, I don't know about
that. Hopefully I've grown, but man, I expect bad things here.
Well, let's go back. So this actually goes back to the early days. Right. I was a featured blog. So I wrote once a week for Bigger Pockets as one of their featured blog posts, and was doing that regularly for I don't know, let's call it a year. And then this intern comes in named Brandon Turner. And
young, dumb kid.
No, I mean, I had, and let's be clear, I was young and dumb too. We're both 20 years older than all of this nonsense, but it is what it is. Josh Jorkin says this guy's coming in, you take over, and in the beginning you're making some changes, but you're adding more rigor to the articles. You're trying to get some standards, right? You're doing the right things. But then as you go through that, you probably start feeling yourself. And I start feeling attacked. Because again, I'm not a writer. Writing is not easy for me. So one of the thing that set me off was I wrote blog posts in a series, right? Like I would take a word, like, I don't know, house, and I'd write an article about an H and then an O and then and I would try to do something like that.
Sure.
And, you didn't like that. And then about a month later, after 4 more posts, you basically came out with an edict that said, thou shalt not do series. You cannot do series anymore. And I don't know if anybody else is doing them, but I felt that was directly aimed at me. And I was like, this son of a bitch doesn't know what the fuck I'm dealing with. I have a full-time job. I got, working 60 hours. I write these articles at freaking midnight. He doesn't have the balls to call me and ask why I do this. And I've had enough. I give up. It's stressful. It's no longer fun. I'm out. And I've carried that till right now. And now I've just laid it down, and now I feel a little better.
Wow, man. It's good to know. I do remember killing the series. Not to throw Josh Dorkin under the bus, but that was definitely a Josh Dorkin decision. However, I supported it at the time, and here's actually why. It wasn't you. It was you and one other person, maybe 2, that were doing series. And so what was happening is it would be part 1, part 2, and then they would conflict with other people's part 1, part 2, and everyone just got confused. And it was just like, this doesn't work. It's like, wait, I read part 1 yesterday, but now part 3 is out today. I don't understand. Because nobody reads the author name, like most people don't. So anyway, that was why the executive decision was made.
Well, that's really funny. So Never knew it was Josh Dorkin. Probably because I didn't ask. I threw my crayons on the ground and walked out like a little baby.
Oh.
So again, didn't know that. That's good to know. And second, I had no idea. Now it makes sense. So maybe
I remember
that was an
Mike.
opportunity for communication, but I don't know.
Yeah, you remember? I think it was House with Mike LaCava. Was that his name?
Yeah,
I don't know.
LaCava. Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Was that his name? Yeah. He was doing series post too. I remember that. Well, I don't know why I remember that, but I remember he was one of them that was doing series too right around that time. And man, that's a long time ago. You know what? Though I will own it. It was still my edict, and I handled it poorly. So I apologize entirely because that was my fault.
No,
so I could explain that. Yeah.
Yeah. So as I've again, we're both 2 decades older. We both have kids. All of that stuff. I handled it badly as well. Right. I said I threw my crayons on the ground. I could have reached out to you. We had communicated a couple of times directly. I could have reached out and said, like, what the hell? And, I let a bad moment get me. And frankly, I've carried it. And, I've watched you do amazing things. You're a hero to the real estate community. So I have heard your name.
From it.
No, I mean, you've got to know it. I've heard your name so often. And I'm like, I fucking hate that guy. I hate that guy.
I will continue to disappoint people for the rest of my life. So this will not be the first nor the last time I will disappoint people. Especially, this is a hard year for real estate too. So it's going to be a lot of disappointments. I've got about 2,500 investors right now that are disappointed in me. So I'm getting used to this feeling. This is great.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for saying yes to this. You didn't know what I was going to say. I feel better. It's nice to know there. As I expected, I could have done a better job myself. And you know what? I will no longer say I hate Brandon Turner. So
good.
I will let that go.
Good, man. Because
probably a good thing.
Yeah, because whenever I see your content online, I'm not kidding. I think I said in the text, I'm like, hey, I'm a big fan. Whenever I see your content, I'm like, oh, I love this guy. I'm a YouTuber. Like he's got a good head on his shoulders, like better than most in the internet marketing world. So like the social media realm, you know what you're doing more than most.
Do you remember that first Bigger Pockets event in Denver?
I remember it. Oh, wait, let's see. That was the very first one I was not at. Here it goes back to the smallest piece of my story. I couldn't afford a ticket to it. And this was, I wasn't quite an intern yet. I was still a volunteer at the time with Bigger Pockets. And so Josh didn't offer me a free ticket. And I literally couldn't afford the $300 and the flight. And so I did not go to that one.
Yeah, I was there, one of the speakers. Yeah. And again, I flew in from Singapore for that event.
Did you really? Did you live there?
No, I was sold software. So I had global responsibilities. So I would literally be in 3 countries a week usually. So, and that's,
you're not doing that anymore, I assume.
No, dude, I've been retired since 18.
Yeah, there you
go. No more software since 2018. But yeah, I was, I Bigger Pockets, way back in the day, it was the spot where hope lived. That's where I really thought Bigger Pockets was in the beginning. You got Josh Dorkin running around getting all these servers and all this stuff, and you've got all these volunteers and contributors just giving out hope. That's what I really thought Bigger Pockets was, way back when.
Dude, that's how I found it. I found Bigger Pockets because I searched Google, or maybe it was Dogpile or one of those websites, Yahoo, I don't know. But I remember typing in
whatever.
It was something. Yeah, exactly. Ask Jeeves. Yeah, we go way back. I was like, what to do when tenants don't pay rent? Because my dad was like, you're gonna be a real estate investor? Like, the terrible idea. Tenants won't pay rent and you'll be broke and bankrupt. And I was like, you're right. I was like, oh yeah, I'd read a book and I was excited, and then I dashed all my hopes and dreams. And then I type into Google what to do when tenants don't pay rent. I find an article called What to Do When Tenants Don't Pay Rent. And I don't remember what the article said, but it gave me hope. I was like, oh shoot, there's actually answers to the negative Nancys of the world, and people actually get beyond that. And that changed my life forever. I owed everything to Josh Dorkin and the Bigger Pockets world, because man, he built something incredible.
And it's gone on,
changed and morphed, and it's different today than it was, but it's still a powerhouse.
No, it's still doing great. Where I'm not trying to say it's not doing great things or having hope today, but I'm just trying to commiserate about what it was, way back when.
Well, back then it was a commute, like it was much more of a community because it was just smaller. We all knew each other. Like it was. I mean, it's private equity today. It's not bad. It's great. It helps a lot of people, but it is a private equity owned company today that is very large and very successful. And that's why I didn't last there. I lasted about a year with private equity once Josh exited, and I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah,
I'm not a private equity worker.
No, very cool. Well, let's get in and see if we can't give some folks some hope.
I love it.
When was your first real estate deal? What year do you remember?
Yeah, 2007. Early 2007. Bought a house. You remember how great that year was?
Yeah, it was the start of a couple of bad years.
Yes, I remember actually trying to sell that house because I bought the house just to live in. I didn't know anything about real estate. I just bought a house because it was cheap. And you remember back in the day, they're like, you call up a mortgage lender and they're like, so what do you make? I'm like, they're like, ask me, what do you make? And I'm like, I don't know, like $8 an hour. Like, we're just going to write $40 an hour. Like, it was just like stupid. Like they can just add what's your net worth? I don't know, -5,000. They're like, oh, we're going to write 150,000. Like they just made things up. It was like the no doc loans. You just make whatever you want up. So like I got a house because I could. And then about 6 months into the house living, I was fixing it up and just renting it out to a bunch of buddies. I remember thinking, I'm going to go backpack Europe. Like a year. And I was like, how much would I need to backpack Europe for a year? And I thought probably about 15 grand, which is now kind of laughable, but I was like 15 grand, I could live for a whole year in Europe. And so I was like, well, where do I get 15 grand from? And I thought, I wonder if I sold my house, if I could get 15 grand from it. So I run the numbers and sure enough, I was like, oh, I could actually make like 25. So I fixed it up the rest of the way and I sold it. And then I got married instead. So I spent 25 grand on a wedding. And
you had the money, but it went to the wedding.
Yeah, it went to the wedding instead, which was a much better purchase. I did get to Europe with my wife a few years later. So we spent 3 weeks instead of a year and we spent about 15 grand, but whatever, it was great. So that's my first year. Yeah, 2007. But here's the point. I remember watching TV and in the living room, we were packing everything up. All we had left in the house was the couch. And I'm packing it up and I'm watching like this, I don't know, CNBC or whatever. It was like the day Lehman Brothers fell or one of those. Ooh, and I remember going like, this is supposed to close tomorrow. I think the world is collapsing right now.
The world just like changed.
Yeah. It did. And I sold that house. I got out. I bought it for, I don't remember what it was, 75, 79, sold it for 140. And 2 years later, it was worth 50. Like it was just shocking how far that fell. And today it's finally back up, probably worth 253. But wow, that was a decade.
Yeah, it was funny. My first rental purchase was 2002 Norris Drive. I bought it for 107. I did a cash out refi probably 18 months later, bought some more units, turned it negative, what I call an alligator. Now it's not cash flowing, it's negative, stupid. But I buy 2 more, so net I'm positive. At least that's what I tell myself. And Norris Drive goes all the way up to I sell it at 265. I do a 1031 in 06 into an apartment building. It goes all the way to 300. And then it crashes to 75.
Jeez, yeah.
This is the world that you and I lived through. It was wild to watch that.
What's it worth today, you think?
Probably today about 340. I just looked the other day. Okay. But it took 15 years to get back to 300.
Yeah, that's wild. Oh, yeah. I mean, it always gets back there, but sometimes it doesn't get back that quick.
I would be retired because I went to a Bruce Norris event and he said California crash, and I didn't know what that meant. So I looked it up and he was right. So I sold all my houses right at the peak. Like you sold yours the day Lehman closed or blew up. I think my last one was right around that time. So we were out of houses in apartments when the great crash came, which was a nice place to be when it all came apart.
Yeah, I just flipped my way through the crash and couldn't really sell them because nobody was buying, and so I ended up owning a bunch of rentals. And actually, that's how I discovered like, oh, rental property investing is actually kind of cool. So, yeah, it was. I don't know if I would have got there without the crash. You know, I worry about people today. I mean, it's not happening today as much as like a year ago. But how many people you know and I know, like they get into real estate, they don't know what they're doing, they flip a house, they make all the mistakes, and they make 200 grand because the market just went up. I don't actually think that's a beneficial thing in life. Like those people just don't know pain. We learn just painful experiences.
Well, let's just have it out. There were a lot of people doing stuff in 21 and 22 that just got fat, dumb, and lucky.
Yeah,
and a lot of them are gone already, and many more will go this year. I think 2025, at least in residential real estate, will be the hardest year yet. I think it will be harder than 2024. I think it gets better from there in 26, but we got one more hard year.
Yep. We're looking at it with multifamily right now. You know, I'm like, if I can just, I got to last to 2025. We got to get the rest of the inventory online that they've been building for the last few years. And then there's going to be nothing coming online.
Nothing.
Like,
there's nothing after that.
And then rents are just going to skyrocket because supply and demand is all out of whack. And we're going to have a great 26, 27, 28. Yeah. So it's like, you just survive till 2026. Yeah. Survive through 2025.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about syndication. Yeah. Because one of the things that I have seen, and BiggerPockets is a great place for this, because again, there's always this focus of energy in real estate, right? Yep. Is it BRRRR? Is it STR, short-term rentals? Is it syndication? Is it, is it sub 2? Whatever it is, right? There's always something in the sun. But man, I got to tell you, having been in the game 25 years, anytime that sun comes around, I run the freaking other way. Because it gets crowded, it gets stupid, the fraudsters come out, it could get ugly.
I 100% agree. Yeah, and it's like, it moves so rapidly, and then everyone, it's like the stuff that worked a few years ago just doesn't work. So you got to find the new thing. So then the guru finds a new thing, they start teaching it, it becomes the big hot thing, and then then it gets overbuilt, and then you got to find the new thing. And so you're kind of always jumping around. There's a few things that just generally always work, but even some of those have been tested the last few years. Like just buying a rental property and holding on forever usually works. Not as well when houses double and interest rates double. So it's like
very hard to do what I do. Yes, very hard.
Yes. It's gotten a lot harder. So I've shifted a lot of my focus lately on like, how do we get cash flow today? And it's not the way that we used to. And so like I think of things like, whether it's rent, like the weird stuff, rent by the room, midterm rentals, short-term rentals, assisted living facilities, like residential assisted living, all that stuff. I'm fascinated by. I just like, because they work. They're not easy. They're all weird and they're hard.
Yeah,
but they work. Even like build to rent, like it's annoying, but it works. People are making money that way. So it's a wild time.
It is certainly moving around. Well, let's talk about the syndication space, the space you've been in for the last couple of years. Again, just we've been in the game a long time. So I'm always brought to events, real estate meetups, as the boring one rental at a time guy, right? Buy and hold, single families, fourplexes, all that stuff. So I remember going to an event in the Silicon Valley, San Jose Marriott, and there was a syndicator was pitching, or I don't know, whatever, presenting next to me. And nobody wanted to hear about my story. Everybody in the room that had all that stock money and all that stuff wanted to buy apartments in Tulsa or Cleveland or Detroit. And I am positive that person raised millions of dollars there. But the problem, the syndicator never owned a rental, never lived in any of those areas, didn't have any network or connections. And the best case scenario is they were funding somebody else's deals, but it didn't sound like it. They sounded like they were just going to go gung-ho and go on Loopland or Crexy and go find a deal.
Just find a deal,
Oh, it's not that easy, guys. It never was.
Yeah, it never was. And we're, that quote from Warren Buffett, it's like, when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked. We're seeing a lot of naked swimmers right now. In like the multifamily space is just crashing right now. I don't think people realize how bad it is.
It's bad.
I mean, I've invested in, outside of Open Door Capital, my own company, I've invested in 3 other syndications. Two of them are almost for sure going to zero. And one of them, I think I'll maybe get back half. And that's not an uncommon story. Almost everybody in syndication. And there's a lot of reasons for it. But the primary driver of that, 3 things killing it. Cap rates, which is, we don't go deep into how cap rates work, but basically how multifamily is valued, have gone from 4 to 6. It's a 50%, basically like a 50% jump there, which decreases the value of your property by 30 to 50%. Depends on how you want to run that math. So you could buy an apartment for $50 million and nothing could change about the deal whatsoever. Your income could even go up. You can make more money, but simply the appetite for risk has changed so that $50 million property is now worth 30. And it's just like, oh shoot, like what do you do? And yes, you can hang on and hold on for years. You can hope to do that. And at the same time, it's like a perfect storm. Taxes and insurance doubled or tripled. Rents are going down.
Rents are going down.
Labor's gone way up. I mean, our CapEx repair budgets are 2, 3, 4 times what we expect them to be.
It's crazy.
So you get this perfect storm of interest rates are high, which makes cap rates go high, which makes the value drop, but then you can't, like, you're not cash flowing anymore because your insurance and taxes are up. and your labor's up and materials are up, and then your rents go down in places like Austin, Nashville, and some of the big cities.
Yeah.
It's a perfect storm. And it's not necessarily the syndicator's fault. I mean, and I'm not immune from this. We've got deals that are just struggling because of this exact thing. And it's like, I mean, yeah, should we have just sat it out? Maybe. I mean, in hindsight, sure. But given the knowledge we had, like, how do you predict that cap rates are going to go up that high? They never have in history gone that fast or that high, like that fast.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you can only underwrite based on what's reasonable. And then what we've seen in the last 5 years has been so unreasonable. But we're riding through it. You figure out ways, you
you've got to get through it, right? Yeah, you got to get through it. This is what I'm telling people about, because again, I'm looking to repeat what I did in 2008, which was sell singles and buy distressed multifamilies, right? I went from 8 houses to 80 units. And amazing. I own a lot more than 8 houses today. So, I'm looking to do this again, probably late 25, but it could go to 26, right? Because all of this takes time to unravel. So I'd be curious if my logic holds. As of right now, it appears that Class A multifamily is starting to retrade. It appears that is taking about a 25 to 30% haircut. That is what is, and again, it's not a lot of trading, but it's starting to move. Am I doing okay so far?
Yes, correct. I agree.
So I don't play in Class A. I'm not Ken McElroy and got hundreds of millions of dollars. Not where I play, but it's fun to watch, right? It's a leading indicator. However, I do own a lot of Class B and Class C stuff. And if Class A, using round numbers, is down 30%, and oh, by the way, Class B and Class C got stupid cap rate compression.
Yes.
Right. These things are going to revert to the mean. So we might be looking at 40, 50, maybe in some cases 60% off once this stuff starts to retrade. Am I nuts?
Yep. No, I don't think you're wrong at all. I think that's exactly what's happening. And when I look at some of the values under some of our properties, because of that cap rate stuff and because of everything else, it's like, oh shoot. Like, it's not, I wouldn't say any of ours are worth half, but they're definitely worth a third less. A couple of them are like a third, 30 to 40% less. And we had a lot of B class stuff. It's going to be a wild ride. Now, interesting enough, this is what I was actually talking to Ken McElroy about this, is what he says is he's seen that like all these foreclosures should be coming on right now, and they're not. And like, where's all the multifamily foreclosures? The banks are holding them.
Extended.
They are foreclosing. They're just not. They're going to hold them because they understand this is just a temporary thing. They understand.
Really, they're keeping them on the balance sheet.
Yeah, they're keeping them because they know that. Yeah, they lent at 60 million. They take it back. It's only worth 30 today. They're just going to hold on to it because it'll be worth 60 again in a couple of years. And they're like, we know that's coming. So they're, according to McElroy, they're holding on to them because they believe in it. So I actually think there's a tremendous opportunity right now. In fact, we're looking at probably doing this in the next year, is in the rescue fund world, like area, right? And like, I don't want to be like I don't want to be a shark that goes in and just like destroys people. But on a deal, it's like a motivated seller with a single family house. If you're going to lose the property anyway, I can save it, but you're going to have to give me a lot. Like, you're going to have to discount it and this and that. There's going to be LP money that's going to be wiped. It is what it is, but it's, maybe better than the alternative of foreclosure. And so I think that there's a good chance I'll create a good size rescue fund. Cardone is doing the same thing. And then go out there and just take those deals at 30, 40, 50%, 60% off.
One of the most disappointing things I read I read this week, it was actually out of the Real Deal. So, I don't know how that's sourced, but they're a decent publication. They indicated that there are some syndicators now that are actually raising net new monies to buy the debt of their own old deals at a discount.
Interesting.
So they would wash. Yeah. And again, I don't really, that just feels all kinds of,
it feels illegal somehow.
Yeah. It feels yucky, but you sort of wash out all the old LP and then you get a discount on the new stuff. Even if you're doing it, the debt fund space is where the deals are going to get done.
Yeah. 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 That's fascinating. I mean, that seems like it'd be completely legal, but unless, you tell your investors like, hey, you're going to lose it anyway. So we might as well, if you want to jump into the new one, we can climb this back up again. I guess maybe there's a logical argument there. I don't know.
It's again, one of those areas that got hot and it brought out a lot of pretenders. Like
it did.
If people are like Ken McElroy and Grant Cardone and they're doing all this A stuff, A class A stuff, it didn't really get wild, but like my market, 2019, the stuff I buy, usually it's an 8.5 or a 9 cap. I sold a couple of apartment buildings when it got sub 6.
Yeah.
Went to the low 5s.
Wow.
They're going to go back to 9. And again, if history's any case, reversion to the mean means it might go to 10 or 11 before it gets to 9. Right? Money was free and flowing, so you can't. There's no way a C class should be that close to an A class property. It's just not how it works.
I agree. Yep.
Yeah.
It's exactly what's coming. So there's going to be tremendous opportunity, especially in multifamily, over the next few years. If you can survive through a couple more years, there's going to be tremendous opportunity. So and the hard times right now are making us good enough to be able to take advantage of that. So a lot of newbies ask me the question, going back to single families, hey, should I wait to buy a real estate deal until the market improves? And for 15 years, people have been asking me that online. I'm sure you get it too.
Oh,
and I'm always no, go find something that works today, or try your hardest, because this is when you get good. The first 5 years are not to make money. They're just to get good enough to be able to make money.
Exactly.
And so I want to lift weights that are too heavy for me so that I build strength. I want to buy deals that don't make any sense. And I'm going to make them make sense because I'm so good at spotting the hidden, whatever the strategy is. So that when things get easy again, then we just skyrocket.
Well, that's
we're getting good right now. Hopefully.
That's what I keep telling everybody, right? I know I talk to, several big flippers and real estate investors every week on my show. And I'm like, guys, all you got to do is get through 25. Just get through 25. Half of the pretenders will disappear. The other half have already left. And you guys are going to gorge in 26 and 27. There'll be you guys are going to be fit and strong, and you're going to have no competition. It's going to be wild times, but you got to get through 25.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to get through 25. It's it's going to be great, I think. Now for tenants, the rents are just going to go up and up and up. It's going to be sucky for them. And there's already an affordability crisis in America. It's going to get worse. I have a slight fear, not too much, especially now that Trump's in office. But I had a slight fear that it's going to reach a fever pitch at some point here of affordability. And then when people start marching, that's when the government's going to step in. And not that I'm too afraid of rent control, because it generally just flows up to the landlords anyway. But it introduces a variable that I don't like, which could be them coming in and going, from now on, do you know in Seattle, they tried to pass a rule with city council or whatever that gave tenants equity in any property they rented? It's that's never that's stupid. What's a tenant going to do? Hey, we need a new roof, so we're going to need everyone to pony up $4,000. That's just silly, right? That's not going to happen. But they tried to do it because that's what happens when people get crazy and they get. So anyway, I worried that was going to happen. I don't worry as much now. But something's got to break somewhere. We've got to solve affordability in America. And they're tackling it from different ways. California's doing the ADU game. And I love that strategy where you add the ADU, or 12. If you're in San Diego, you can add unlimited number of ADUs pretty much based on the square footage of your lot. I think more and more cities will adopt that. I think the whole rent by the room, pad split model is going to go nuts over the next few years. And I think that's a solution. They've got to allow more zoning, higher density, smaller apartment units. I mean, we're going to turn into Europe essentially. Europe figured this out decades ago, or at least they're trying to, because they added overpopulation, not enough affordable housing. So it's going to be an interesting ride.
What do you think about this notion of renter nation? Do you think I think right now the numbers say we're 64% owner occupied. Do you think that ever dips below 60?
I don't. I don't. I mean, culture can swing pretty quickly. So I might eat my words, but I just think more and more people are just why? Why own? That was the old American dream. That's what my parents' dream was. That said, all that changes it's just financials, right? So as soon as it's cheaper to buy than rent, then people go back to buying. But I don't know if we'll ever get to that point where it's cheaper to buy than rent anymore. So I would wager, if I was a betting man, that we're going to be a renter nation forever.
Really? Okay. Renter nation. Yeah. All right. It's funny because one of the things that, I was at an event and asked if I had a magic wand, what would I do to fix housing? And there's only one answer, in my opinion, is you have to incentivize entry-level housing, right? I'm talking the 950 square foot, 3, 1.5, maybe 1-car garage, right? We haven't done that since the 70s, and in some spots, the 50s.
Yeah.
If we don't really get after that, and I don't know if that's taking over government land and them giving it to the builders for free or whatever it is, But if we don't have a national initiative to produce, hundreds of thousands of entry level housing, this is going to get ugly fast.
Yeah. I'm curious your thoughts on, I've never really thought through this one, but America, I heard recently tipped from the number of people that are dying and then people are born. We are now at a net negative. However, we're still population growing because of immigration.
Correct.
So we're still moving up. But with Trump's new, really strong anti-immigration, if that becomes a more permanent fixture in America, or America just becomes less lovable to go move to, and we start losing population, that could also maybe long-term solve the problem. I don't.
Sure.
Do you see, I don't know if we're going to see population decline, but.
No, I mean, these are, if you're playing the long game, and long game in real estate's a decade, these are legit conversations. Yeah. I am in the camp that America will always be the place that the best and brightest want to be. That's just my belief.
I agree.
You want to go to China? I've been there. Go ahead. You want to go to Russia? Go ahead. Brazil, Colombia? Go ahead. I've been to lots, 50 or 60 countries. I still believe we are where the best of the best want to be. And as long as that stays true, I'm not concerned.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think there's going to be fallout in certain markets. Obviously, it's already kind of happening. The cities are growing a lot bigger and a lot of rural areas are dying. I think there's a trend of people moving south because it's just easier to work online. So why live in the snow? Yep. I think we're going to see movements there. I think AI is going to do some things that none of us can predict. We all know AI is changing the world rapidly. I don't know what that looks like, but I think AI, the Tesla car stuff is not just Tesla, but just autonomous cars are going to transform things because you no longer have to commute. You just sit in a car and work, and you're taken to work and dropped off and you go back. I think that's going to expand.
You don't need a garage.
You don't need a garage anymore. Correct. Yeah, that's going to be a big change. Yeah. So, I think there's some big macro changes coming down that we can't fathom. What have you seen Ready Player One? That concept of living in virtual reality. We're not more than 5 years away from maybe 10 of indistinguishable virtual reality, where people can just live in that. And people might think, well, that's crazy. Who would do that? 100 million Americans right now are just living
exactly. It's a bigger number than you think.
Yeah. And most people sit on their phones for 8 to 10 hours a day and live in the virtual world. So if the technology was good enough and it's in your contact lenses or your glasses and you're just living in this fake world, what does that do? I don't know. It's going to change something.
Well, if you really want to get wild with it, the thing that is out there that could really crash birth rates, not that they're already down, but really take them even the next step lower, is this virtual reality, companion bots, whatever you want to call those things. If that's going to get wild.
Yeah, it's going to get absurd. We to take it a little PG-13, right? There's already a pretty bad porn epidemic, you could call it, in America, with especially young men.
No doubt.
It is going to be so much worse. We can't fathom how bad that addiction is going to be for it's going to hit everywhere. And what do you think? I don't know. Who's going to go have a girlfriend when they can have a real looking girlfriend in their virtual reality that will do whatever they want? It's going to be insane.
Yeah, that's I was listening to a podcast the other day, and that was the third rail of AI and robotics or autonomous. I was like, oh my God, this could end really, really bad.
Yeah.
All right, let's step away from that crazy stuff. Let's talk about when I got started, I was 30. I think you were in your 20s. What would you tell someone today? Sometimes we just got to get people. What would you tell somebody starting today?
Yeah, great question. A couple things. One, the bar is still low, and what I mean by that is it's not hard to buy a rental property, even a cash flowing one. It's not hard to go pick up an Airbnb or midterm rental, rent by the room, assisted living. None of those things are hard. Most people will never take action. I got a training course, whatever you want to call it. And I teach newbies how to buy their first deal. And I got a couple hundred people in there and maybe 40 show up to a call. And I'm like, you just got to show up. And it's I'm just going to teach you everything I know. Just show up once a week for an hour. And it's nobody does. We have 1,000 people in the Better Life Tribe that are all real estate investors. We'll get 30, 40 out of 1,000 to show up to a call. And I'm like, what? What are we doing? The bar is low. So I want to give people hope in that you understand you're not competing against 300 million Americans. You're competing about 12 that are actually doing the work, you know? So like, if you just do the work, you're going to be in the top. This is about every industry, by the way. You're a contractor who returns a phone call, top 5%, right?
Yeah.
You're a plumber who actually just doesn't rip people off and shows up on time, top 5%. The bar is low. So that should give people hope. And then it just comes down to three things. It's like consistency, persistence, and intensity. In other words, like consistency, you just do the right stuff over and over and over. You do not, to go a football metaphor, you don't need to throw the ball a Hail Mary every play. You just got to get your guy to run down the field 3 yards. Just run 3 yards, pass 3 yards, and you will score touchdown after touchdown. It's consistency that matters, right? Mm-hmm. But then most people, even if they're consistent, they give up. And they do it. Hey, I was consistent for a week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, and then I stopped. So consistency has to be coupled with persistence. You just don't give up. You go long term. And then lastly is you can play with intensity, right? So I'm going to work on my real estate 5 minutes a day, or I'm going to work for 5 hours a day. I'm going to work at like a CEO level, or I'm going to be in there fixing stuff myself and, you know, being the handyman. Just different levels of intensity. But the intensity, like you can ratchet that up and down based on what you want, but consistency and persistence will get you there. So it's identify like, what is the next step I got to do? And just do that thing. Just move the ball down the field 3 yards over and over and over. There's no chance you aren't financially free in a short amount of time.
Yeah, there's so many. I just love all of that. And again, what's really wild is we were saying this stuff in Bigger Pockets in the beginning. It hasn't changed.
Yeah, hasn't changed.
Hasn't changed. There's an interview with me and Josh Storkin, like interview 77 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you have to have a buy box. You have to look at it every day, 20 minutes a day. It'll take you 5 or 6 months to learn average. Once you learn average, you go buy great deals. It's that simple.
I love that. Dude, I teach it all the time. I'm like, the biggest thing that holds people back, I think, is not money. It's not deals. It's decisions. It's like they just haven't decided. Same with like fitness, right? The thing that holds people back from losing weight is not the calories they're eating, or they just haven't chosen a diet and committed to it. If you pick something and commit to it, it works. That's why, like, every diet you can think of, it works. I can find examples of it that works. It's like, you just got to decide and commit. So the thing that people needed, and then everyone's like, well, this sounds good. I don't know if I should midterm rental, or if I should buy a rental or multifamily. Like, it doesn't matter. It all works. Every bit of it works. You just got to find out how it works, but it all works. So just pick something, commit to it.
Yeah.
And you will find success. You're going to become good. Like you said, you spend 6 months learning average. I love that phrase. That's awesome. And then like, okay, now I know it. Now I know what to do. Now I can find good deals. And as long as you don't flip flop every 6 months, you will become good because the bar is so low, and then you start crushing it.
Yeah. You've already found this. I help people all the time, right? Do this for free. 15,000 videos on my YouTube channel. Go get a buy box, look at it 20 minutes a day. Seriously, 15,000. And somebody comes to me like after day 8 and like, Michael, nothing changed. I'm like, congrats. Go out and spend time with your kids. Instead, they come to me and go, well, nothing was there, so I got another one. I'm like, you haven't figured out the first one yet. Why are you looking in Dallas and Detroit? Yeah, they both have a D in the name, but that's like all they have in common. What the hell are you doing? It's just, it's crazy. I'm like, stop the madness already.
Oh, so good, man. Yeah, it's so funny. Oh, there's a metaphor I use all the time. I heard it years ago. And it's like, if you live on an island, and let's say in this imaginary world, there are no planes or boats, you have to get from one island to another. You got to build a bridge to get there. So let's say the island you live on is Reality Island, and you got to get a bridge to Financial Freedom Island. That's what we all want, is financial freedom. All right. So if you build your bridge, and you can build like, I don't know, call it 10 feet every day, it's going to take you a certain number of days to get there. But if you start building 2 bridges at one time, it'll take you twice as long to get there. You're a finite person. So now you're splitting your time. But most people don't do 2 bridges at a time. They do 10 at a time. And so like, it takes 10 times longer. But the magic is, if you just got to the Financial Freedom Island, now you can build more bridges if you want, because you're already there. Now you can go have fun with it. Now you can hire a bridge builder. Now you can hire a whole crew of people if you want to. You're already there. You're set. But people spend decades building 10 different bridges. Like, oh, I'll put a foot on this one today. I'll work on this one today. And they never get anywhere. It's like, pick a thing. I don't even care if it's real estate. You go do an Amazon business. I don't care. You stick with anything for 5 years and you're going to be successful, but no one does.
Yeah. That's I love that. I'm going to steal that analogy. I'll give you credit.
Yeah, take it, man. James Wedmore. I'll give a shout out. It was James Wedmore that I learned that from. He's an internet marketing teacher guy. Yeah. And I remember him using that line, and I was like, that's a great metaphor.
Yeah, because again, I tell people all the time, right? Just focus on your thing. I'm not here to judge what your thing is. Just make it your thing and then do it for a decade. Like,
Yep.
here's something else I say, Brandon. I'm curious what you think. So I say the key to getting wealthy is 3 steps, and it's only 3 steps. Step 1, you must create disposable income. Now, you create disposable income one of 3 ways: increase income, decrease expenses, or both. That is it, right? So you got to create disposable income. Number 2, you have to become elite at something, i.e. don't diversify. Be elite at single family homes or Amazon stores or whatever your thing is. And then step 3, people hate this one, Brandon, a decade.
Yeah, that's it.
That's all it takes.
I could not add anything more to that. That's exactly what it takes. And it's not just real estate, it's anything. It's anything entrepreneurial. That's all it takes.
Yeah, and I don't know why people. It's like, here's the other wild thing. Dion works with Bigger Pockets. Dion McNeely. I'm sure you know him, the lazy landlord. He says, guys, you're going to be alive in 10 years. Invest like it. I'm like, genius.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's wild, and I'm sure a lot of it is like you see the gurus online and you see the maybe even like people like me, and you see us at the end of our journey or like later on.
Chapter 25.
Like, oh, he's got that many units. Oh, I'm sad that I don't have that many. It's like, this is 20 years in. This is like you can't you can't compare yourself to that. It's like, it takes time and nobody wants to give it time. But the thing is, time passes anyway. So like, you might as well just take the time. Like, cause what else are you doing? Like scrolling TikTok? Like, it's like, and it's not even that much work. I like to talk about this. There's a quote in, what book? It's the Whole 30 diet book. So like the Whole 30 is a diet. There's a book about it, the Whole 30. There's a great line in the introduction. It says, don't you dare say that the Whole 30 diet is hard. Cancer is hard. Your spouse dying is hard. Drinking your coffee black is not hard. And I love that concept of like there's almost nothing hard. Not even almost. There is nothing hard about real estate. It's like, oh, we got to send an email. You got to make a phone call in your air-conditioned office, sitting with your in your comfy chair that's like bouncy. You know, it's like everything is so stupid, cushy, and easy in real estate. You might have to think a little bit. Oh, boo-hoo, in your air-conditioned car, you got to think about how I'm going to get this deal worked out. It's like nothing's hard. The only thing hard is doing it. Like, that's it. And that's not even hard. But it is hard if you want to judge it in terms of like the number of people that actually do stuff consistently. Everything is a 5-minute task or less, almost entirely. There's very few things in real estate or life that's more than 5 minutes. It's just a series of them. You might have 100 of them or 1,000 of them, but it's still just a series of tests. So if you get in the habit of saying, what is my next 5-minute task? I call it your MINS, your most important next step. Just get in that habit of always asking, what is my most important next step? It's like the metaphor I often use is reading a book. If you read, this is consistency, but like if you read a book 1 page every week, it's going to take you 5 years to finish the book. But you read 1 page every day, it's going to take you a year to read the book. You read 1 page every minute, it's going to take you 3 hours. So we just got to keep moving the ball down the field. We got to keep turning the page. Well, how do you do that? You simply identify what the thing is that you have to do, and then you do that thing. But it's not the doing the thing that people struggle with. Most people struggle with the identifying what the thing is. And so an example would be like, right now, I have a property I bought last week in Florida, a week and a half ago I bought in Florida. I haven't touched it. I literally haven't touched, I haven't done anything. It's actually kind of silly. I bought it a week and a half ago. It's sitting there vacant. I'm going to turn it into a rent by the room, pad split kind of a thing. Why haven't I done anything? Like, this is legit me thinking right now. I'm like, I haven't identified what the next thing I got to do is. Okay, well, let me just think. I need to remodel it, but that's not the next thing. I need to get a contractor. I have one. I got a recommendation. I need to call the contractor. That's literally all I have to do. It's even easier than that. I need to actually text my assistant and say, hey, can you set up a call?
Hey, can you call?
Contractor? Can you call? Yeah, that's it. It is a 30-second task that has taken me a week and a half to do, simply because I have not set aside the 30 seconds to go, what is my most important next step? And I teach this stuff and I still mess this up every day 100 times. And so I'm trying to, I'm not even kidding. I might tattoo on my body just the words, like on my hand, MINS, most important next step,
Nice.
I'm seriously considering it because I'm like, I want to always get in the habit of thinking like, what do I actually got to decide on and then do?
Right here.
Yeah, right there. Every time I look down, I'm like, most important next step. What do I got to do? And this applies to your marriage, to your health, to your family, your parenting, everything. Next, like I got to take my kids on a date each week. Each week I take each of my kids on a date.
Nice.
I didn't do it last week.
Ooh.
Why not? I don't know. I just didn't. I failed at it. Okay, so this week, what do I got to do? What's my most important next step? It's literally, I need to decide what day I'm going to do. I got to look at my calendar. I got to put it in my calendar. That's the next step. Yeah. That would take me 10 seconds to do, but it took me a week to decide that. Anyway, rant over. But man, if people just did that, identified the next step, and they did it rapidly over and over and over, you just move so fast through life to all your goals. You'll hit them so quickly.
Yeah. The other thing that this rant started with, I just want to go back and hit again because it's that important. Please. I hate it when people look at you or look at me and they start comparing themselves to us. Yeah. I'm like, you little bitch, you've been in this thing 7 seconds and I've been here for 25 years. You better believe I should be a little farther along. I mean, it's so disrespectful. It's crazy.
You haven't earned the right to do go earn the right. Like, go put in your hard knocks. It's like, being upset with the guy that has a six pack. Like, whatever. He deserves it. He got a six pack. He worked out every day. I don't deserve it.
Here's the crazy thing. But if you hang around us, you will probably get to where we are in half our time.
Yeah.
That's the wild thing. Because one of the things that Bigger Pockets did in the beginning, and I'm sure still does today, is it does that community aspect so you can find like-minded individuals. That was the biggest thing for me in the beginning, that frankly, Bigger Pockets was the answer. I had nobody in my family tree, nobody in my daily world who wasn't just a 9-to-5 employee, right? They were just living life and partying on the weekends or whatever they were. Nobody was buying real estate. If Bigger Pockets wasn't there for me, thank you, Josh Dorkin, I don't know where I would have been. I probably would have washed out because my first tenant screwed me. And if I didn't have Bigger Pockets to kind of share the story and hear others get through it, I may not be here today. I might still be working. Wouldn't that be a big failure?
Jeez. It's such a good reminder of how important community is in building this. Last year, I'm going to brag about myself for a second. Last year, I set a goal to go from, I was at 23% body fat and I went down to 14. How'd I do that? Well, I mean, I've worked out for years. I know how to work out. I know how to eat healthy. The only thing that changed, why I changed this year and dramatically improved my body. I mean, got way stronger, way bigger. I got traps for the first time. I got shoulders. This is great. What changed? I joined a fitness challenge with 12 of my close friends, and we just harassed each other every day over in a WhatsApp group about our workouts. And we had some penalties like, hey, if you don't work out, you got to owe $100. And it's like all this stupid stuff. It worked because we had a community of people to go together. Like if you don't have that in real estate, find a way to get it in real estate. Whether it's a local real estate club, you'll find people, get a bunch of buddies, meet together once a month or once a week. Even if it's just digitally, go in Bigger Pockets and hang out and build your friend group. You will become the average of the people you associate with the most. And so level up your group.
Bigger Pockets is a fine place to go. One of the things I chose to do is I leveraged Alex Hormozi's school community. And I created I created a one rental at a time school community. 67 pennies a day, $20 a month. We've got like 360 folks in there growing a couple a day. And it's
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's just people talking about buy box, doing the work, wins, people doing rent by room. It's a big thing right now. You're absolutely right. We've got multiple people doing it in there. And it is just so fun to watch. Because I'm not really poking and prodding it anymore, right? It's got critical mass now, and it's just like watching it from the outside to make sure there's no bad behavior. And it's like, wow, these people are doing some pretty cool things.
That's so cool. Yeah, I love that stuff. How do you like school? I haven't played with school yet. We're on Circle over at.
I don't know any different.
Circle and Kajabi. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't used it. School is great for me for a couple of reasons. One is the community aspects, right? Just the post, just like Bigger Pockets was or Facebook.
Yep.
It has a calendar. The thing that I did for a long time is I had a private Facebook group, 2,000, 3,000 members, but I couldn't communicate with anybody.
Yep.
Like when I had an important message, like 12 people got it. And I'm like, this freaking, and I just, I'm like, no, thanks. It's crazy. But because I just check a box and I can send it to everyone. So
the problem with Yeah, I haven't used School, but I've used Circle and Kajabi. The problem, like, there's no perfect solution out there, but it's like whatever suits you. Great.
Yeah.
You mentioned Alex Ramosi though. He actually has a quote I think that really changed my life a lot, or at least maybe defined why I'm successful at certain things and why I'm not at other things. And I think it applies here to what we were talking about a minute ago. And that is, he put it, I think it was $100 million offers, but he gives a story. Yeah. It's not really a quote, it's a story, right? Where he's talking about, if I wanted to be a consultant and I said to you, hey, I consult people. Okay, now you're worth $50 an hour. Hey, I consult business owners. Maybe you're worth $200 an hour. I consult business owners who are real estate investors. Okay, now you're $500 an hour. I consult business owners who are real estate investors who also have podcasts, and I teach them how to combine the two to make a lot of money. Now you're $10,000 an hour.
Right.
And he says the advice never changed. All that changed was your the specifics of your marketing. And so the reason I bring that up for real estate is because, again, if you're like trying to raise money from somebody, or you're trying to get a partner to work with you, and you're like, oh yeah, I do real estate. Okay, fine. You're somewhat valuable. I do real estate that does pad split. Again, this is buy box. Like, I do a rent by the room model in Atlanta in the west suburbs. And, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden people are like, yeah, he's got I'll give that money to him. Like, you're in because you didn't change. You're still doing real estate, but the specificity of it will show that you're world-class, or at least imply that you're world-class. So
yeah, it's funny raising private money. I've raised millions of dollars twice and never asked for a penny. I just kept documenting what I was actually doing in my buy box. And people said after 3 or 4 times, I like what you're doing. Can I give you some money? That was essentially what happened.
Yep.
Right. It's simple.
The money is not the hard part today.
No.
Like, the deal is the hard part. It's hard to find deals today, but there's a lot of people. There's millions of millionaires, like literally millions of millionaires in America. So it's like, there's like 9 million millionaires. It's like, there's so much money out there, and the amount of money that was printed over the last few years. And like, it's just, there's so much money, and there's so few people doing the work. So like all the money just flows to the people doing the work. And so it's not hard. I mean, obviously I'm in a privileged position with bigger pockets, all that, but it's like, I've raised $500 million. Like, that's insane. Why? Insane. Because 2,500 people was like, well, I got a full-time job. I don't have time to do the work. Brandon's doing the work. I'll let him do it. Like, it's just, do the work, and then you'll attract the money if you just do it right. But most people don't do the work, like we said.
So there's a couple of things I wanted to dig into, because there's a couple of phrases that are thrown around the real estate industry that kind of grate on me. And I'm just curious what you think. One is Grant Cardone says this all the time. Bigger is always better. What do you think?
Yeah, I disagree.
Oh, thank God. I wasn't sure.
Yeah. I fully disagree. And like, I hate when Cardone says stuff like, you shouldn't start with anything less than a 50 unit. I'm like, listen, if you're going to go buy a 50 unit property, first of all, guaranteed you're raising money for it, which means now you're going to lose grandma's money to buy this apartment because you don't know what you're doing. No, you start with the single family or the duplex, and then you learn and you make mistakes and you probably lose money. And then you buy the fourplex and you learn and you probably lose money. And then eventually you earn the right to raise capital and do the 50 unit. The only exception there maybe is you partner with somebody who's got the experience in the hard knocks with the 50 unit, 100 unit, and you take a small piece of a large pie. Fine. I can see that world. That's not what Cardone's saying, I don't think.
No.
I get the feeling, this is probably really negative on him, and I don't mean to like throw under the bus, but like, this is like, it's like, if you tell people that to go start with the 50 unit, they're going to try and no one's gonna be able to pull it off. It's just too big. They don't understand the things. Then they're gonna be like, well, I guess I better just give my money to Grant because he's doing it. So it might just like that. That's just a really good marketing message to start with a 50 unit, because he just knows nobody's going to actually do that. So, because if he said start with a single family, no one would give him money. They would just go and buy a single family because everybody can do that. Yeah. So anyway, bigger is not always better. In fact, I've got a lot of units, 14,500 units. I would guess your net worth with your portfolio is significantly higher than mine. I don't know that for sure. I don't even know my net worth, but my guess is it's higher, because it sounds really good to have 14,000 whatever units. I've got 2,500 LPs who come first. I've got banks that are then in there. And then I've got partners that own 55, 58% of my company. And I'm the very, very, very last person out of that entire group of people to get paid. And so it's really good for the ego to say I got a lot of units, but I guarantee you make more cash flow than I do. Guaranteed. Because I make no cash flow almost at all, because I'm the last one to get paid. And we have a lot of investors get paid first and a lot of preferred returns to hit. So yeah, bigger is not always better.
Yeah, again, bigger is better sometimes. I'm cool with that. Like 2008, 9, 10, 11. It's just not. I hate in real estate. I hate the word always. That's just it's like no.
Me too.
It's
Here's what's hard though. You and I are nuanced guys. Like we can say like it's like bigger is not always better, but sometimes it is. It depends on the situation. Like that's the truth of it, right? That doesn't sell on social media. What sells on social media is you're an idiot if you buy less than 50 units. Go bigger, 10x. Like that's gonna sell. And which is why I never go viral ever, no matter what. I've never had a viral post of me talking. It's like because I'm just like it probably would work. I think they all kind of work. You just got to do the work. Like that's not sexy. It's like you just
here's the next one for you.
Well, anyway,
I got this one from Bigger Pockets back in the day, and as I said in my book, One Rental at a Time, I believed it. I operated with this rule for the first 8 houses, but I hate it now, and that is the 1% rule.
Ooh, yeah.
I hate the 1% rule.
I'd love to know your reason for hating the 1% rule, and I have my own reasons for. I don't know, hate's maybe a strong word, but for not using it or talking much about it.
Yeah, so I hate it because it sends the wrong message. If you are because one of the reasons the 1% rule plays is it's super simple, it's sexy, and you can feel like you're advanced.
Yep.
Right? It gives you that illusion that you know what you're doing.
Yep.
But if you really use the 1% rule in most markets, it drags you to the D areas.
Yep.
It ignores things like HOA.
Yep.
Right? There's all of these other things that once you get in the game and you really understand cash flow, that the 1% rule kind of ignores or misses or whatever. So I think it's not a bad rule for guys like us who have experience that we can look at it. But when you're really early, and again, I bought 8 houses because of the 1% rule. So I used it. But watching it evolve over the years, too many people get burned by it because it just drags you to the wrong quality, in my opinion.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think everyone's looking for the shortcut. Another Hormozy quote is he said something like, the shortcut to success is the long way. And it's like, if you want the shortcut, it's just you go the long way. The same as like people want the shortcut to analyzing a deal. Well, the shortcut is to run the numbers in a good spreadsheet that you understand fully how it functions, so you can understand where the mistakes are and where you're going to screw up. And you got to get really good at it. And then you got to analyze 100 of them before you even halfway know what you're doing. It's like, that's the long way. I like the idea of a rent to price ratio algorithm in my head, which is what the 1% rule really says. It's like, what is the rent compared to the purchase price? And I can compare within a market different options. So I can say that one, I think would rent for $2,000 a month and it's $300,000. That one would rent for $2,000 a month and it's $700,000. Okay, that one's probably a better deal.
Right.
But even that, even that, the taxes might be completely different. There's an HOA over there. Like you said, there's all these factors that are not factored in. Learn how to run the numbers correctly. It's not hard. It takes less than 5 minutes to run the numbers on a deal. And probably it's like 2 minutes. Most of that time is just spent looking up what are the taxes going to be. And it's not hard to run.
It's just go a little bit deeper. Because again, the 1% rule is super sexy, and I've seen people use it and act all swaggy. It's like, you really don't know what you're doing. You're going to buy the wrong stuff. You're going to buy the wrong stuff.
That's true.
One of the things that I see you putting out here recently is something called, again, could be wrong, but I think it's called the stack method. You want to break that down for us?
Yeah, it actually kind of goes what I said earlier about the Cardone thing, about like, I don't like 0 to 50. I don't like 0 to 100. I think you got to learn along the way. And so what I kind of talk a lot about is the stack. I'm just like, just buy a house. If you bought one, let me give a backstory. I once heard, do you remember the show Income Property on HGTV with Scott McGilvery? So Income Property, at the very beginning of every episode, they'd go, Scott McGilvery is a contractor and real estate investor, blah, 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 with 100 houses, blah, blah, blah. And I was always like,
100?
100 houses. How could a human being own 100 houses? Because at the time I owned 2. And I was like, it takes me a year to buy a house, fix it up, rent it out, get it stabilized, buy the next one a year later. I'm like, how the heck does he do that? Well, this is how a guy does that. It's called the stack. It's like you buy the house and you make a bunch of mistakes and you make no money because you don't know how to analyze deals. And you're like, well, that sucked. But then next time you buy the duplex, and don't get caught up on the specifics, people. I'm talking about buying a bigger deal. Let's call it a duplex. You already own 1. It's not that much harder to go to 2. to have now you've got a 2 unit and the 1 unit. Okay, well now you got 3 units. You hold that for a while, get used to it, make a bunch of mistakes, learn, and then you buy the 4-plex. And then you hold that for a little while, then buy you 8-plex, 16, 32. So we got 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. That is 6 purchases, and you're already up to over whatever that is, 60 something units. If each one of those purchases, each layer of that stack was, I don't know, whatever, let's call it 1 year. That means in 6 years, you'd have 60 units. That's great. If every unit gave you a couple $100 in cash flow, you are now retired in 6 years. That's the stack. It's a way of symbolizing like, oh, and then go 1 more year, you buy the 64 unit, and now you're over 100 units. Now you're Scott McGillivray on HGTV, and you did it in 7 years. Now, if you did that same cycle every 6 months, now you did it in 3 years, 3.5 years. And so it's a way of explaining real estate growth is exponential. It can be exponential. It doesn't have to be, but it can be exponential. And what I found is easier today for me to buy a 100-unit mobile home park. I buy a lot of mobile home parks. I can buy a 100-unit mobile home park far easier than when I bought that first single-family house. So as you scale, it actually gets easier in that stack, but it wouldn't be there if I hadn't done the original. So that's the stack.
No, I think it's a wonderful idea. And again, I think everybody, like you could be, again, a boy of mine, Dion or Coach Carson, right? Where you're trying to get to what is the least amount of units I could get to cover my life expenses? That's an amazing goal, right? If the answer is 10, 12, 18, I wish you nothing but success. But, Olivia and I did a version of the stack method, but we didn't know what that was, what it called, but we were only buying houses. So we bought 8 houses over about 3.5 years. Then we learned, thanks to Bruce Norris, that houses were going to crash. So we did what was called a 1031 exchange. And we took those 8 houses, and in about 9 months, maybe 10, we had 80 units.
Yeah.
Now, the next thing we could have done, we didn't, but we could have held those 80 units for, let's call it 5 to 7 years. And we could have 1031 out of those 80 units easily into 300 or 400 units.
Yep.
Right. It's just about owning assets for the long term, building equity. And then if you want a 1031 up, you can, right? You don't, the stack works. You don't have to go to 2000, right? You just know your numbers. So Olivia and I were comfortable at 200 and we're good to go. But I think the stack is a great thing. I wish more people would talk about it because it's literally monopoly, right? It's greenhouses, red hotels.
Houses and hotels. That's all it is. Yeah, I like to take concepts, this is like education trick or whatever you want to call it, is like I take concepts that take more than like 1 sentence to explain, and I just put a name to it. So like the word burr, I was from a blog post I wrote in Bigger Pockets. House hacking was a blog post I wrote in Bigger Pockets, and then the stack, and there's been a few more over the years. And you just put a name to it. Alex Hormozi talks about this in one of his books too. But it's like you just put a name to stuff, and then people thinks you invented the strategy. I just put a name to the stuff because I have a big following that it sticks. But
that's awesome.
But it also helps if you're an educator trying to explain something to somebody. Yeah, people will remember the name the stack. They'll remember burr. They remember house hacking.
Yep.
More than they'll remember a 4-sentence explanation of what it is. And so,
I think that's simple genius is genius. That's awesome. Are you still doing good on time, or you got to go? You got family commitments, or
I got pickleball in 2 hours, so I'm good.
We got time. Good. The other thing that I was thinking about is I have said, and I'm curious if you believe this as well. Something I did not do in my real estate investing journey, but I wish I had, and that is house hacking. I believe house hacking is the cheat code to wealth.
I agree. I'm a huge fan of it. I have house hacked almost my entire life. And that includes right now. Actually, at this very moment, I'm not house hacking, but April 1st, here in a few weeks or whatever, you want to call it another month and whatever, some change, 2 months. I got a friend of mine moving into my extra unit at my property, and he's going to cover a good third of my mortgage. Now I'm living in a $4 million house in Maui, but so I got a large mortgage, but he's going to cover a third of it. And if I have another house on the property, because this is basically a 3-unit property, I could rent that house out for $3,500 a month. That would take care of another third and a half. I'd probably be living for, I don't know, $1,000 a month, something like that in Maui, Hawaii, with an ocean view and a stupid, house hacking is a cheat code. And it's not just for that crappy duplex in a bad area when you're 20 years old, which is, that's how I started. Crappy duplex, bad area. But so it works from there all the way up to $1 million houses in Maui. It is a cheat code to success because you get the low down payment because you live there. It's like training wheels for real estate investing.
Mhm.
It is, you're, like you said earlier, like you got to get disposable income. Well, what's your biggest expense? Your house, your
Exactly.
housing payment. Get rid of that. And all of a sudden you free up a mass amount of money while learning, while growing. It's win, 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 win.
Yeah, there's a couple. The handle is PTO for life. They're now on their 9th house hack, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
And they've done crazy things like lived in a master bedroom, right? This is a husband and wife couple, no kids. They've lived in a 400 square foot ADU, but they're financially free after 8 years and 9 house hacks. I mean,
that's awesome.
Come on, folks. It's crazy.
It's crazy, but it works. And, you know, a lot of people listening goes, yeah, I would never want to do that. That sounds terrible. I'm like, all right, well, enjoy your job for 40 years. Right? Like that sounds
I don't know.
terrible to
Being
me.
financially free sounds really good after 8 years or 9 years. You know?
Really good. Yeah. But, you know, nobody wants to, oh, shoot. What's that quote? It's like everyone wants to be something, but nobody wants to. I don't know, whatever. Everybody wants a pie, but nobody wants to bake. It's like there's a lot of those phrases. Like everybody wants financial freedom, but nobody wants to house hack. Like that needs to be a T-shirt somewhere. Like just house hack. I mean, if you want to know the easiest way to be financially free, just go be homeless, technically. But
that's one way to get rid of the
the exactly. You got no bills, no expenses. You are living free. You just got to beg for money a little bit.
Yeah, no, don't do that. So I'm curious. So when because again, you are the god of real estate investing. You're looked up to, wrote the best books on it.
I've never been called the god of real estate investing. I'll take it.
Oh, there you go. Get that tattooed on your honey. I'm the god of real estate investing. What do you get asked the most? Like, is it just how to get, like, do people just ask you how to get started, or do people want to be you? Like, how can I do what you did? Or what are they asking you?
That's a great question, man. I would say still the number one question I get is how do I like get money? Like, I think as much as I will always say that's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is decision. The second biggest problem is deal flow. And the third biggest problem is money. It's like, it doesn't matter. Everyone still wants to know, like, but how do I get more money? I think even people who have money are asking, well, how do I get more money? Because they're thinking 5 years down the road. Well, I mean, if I got 100 grand, but what am I going to do then? I'm just like, don't worry about it. Just worry about the decision and the deal flow. The dollars will figure themselves out. But that is number one. The question I get more than anything else is, how do I raise private money, or how do I get money? How do I finance it with no money down? Which is fine. I don't know about you, but like, I have no problem. In fact, I just sat at lunch with my kid's teacher. We have like a homeschool co-op thing. We hired a teacher come out and teach our kids. And during lunch break today, I sat with the teacher for 45 minutes and talked about strategies of turning her house into a house hack and then moving out and taking that equity and dumping it into another single family house. And I loved every second of it. It was the best lunch I've had in a while. I still love teaching the basics and talking about the basics. It's like, it never gets tired to me. Like, I love this stuff.
No, and again, it's Bigger Pockets has changed lives. You've changed lives. We just got to get more people to believe.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of people that have somewhere between given up and think it's impossible. We've lost the belief.
Yeah,
and I don't know whether that's people being soft or social media only showing the wins. I don't know what it is, but it's so possible. It's still possible right now today.
Yeah. In fact, I would argue with some of these strategies, like assisted living or pad split or midterm rentals, like it's more possible than ever before. Like if I would have known 10, 15 years ago what I know today, like shoot, it would take me a year to get financial freedom. Like literally, like if I had to start over right now, had no, even let's just say no money and no like experience or whatever, I would spend probably I had like gun to my head, I had to get financial freedom in a year or two, let's just say. It's like I would just buy one residential assisted living facility. Like one residential assisted living facility should get you $10,000 to $15,000 a month in cash flow. Now it's tremendously hard to go, learn how to do that and buy the property and do the things. It's all hard. You got to raise money from somebody. Okay, fine. One stinking property would get you financially free. But then you got to deal with Medicare, Medicaid. Yeah, it's hard. So is being poor. Like it's all hard.
It's all hard.
It's all hard. But at the same time, like I said earlier, it's just baby steps. Like everything, even like I got to learn how to be an assisted living operator. Okay, fine. What do you got to do? I got to go on the internet in my air conditioned office. I'm going to type into Google how to open up a residential assisted living facility. Oh, that's so hard, right?
It's so hard.
I got to read the website from the state on what the licensing requirements are. Oh, that's so hard. in my air-conditioned office on my bouncy chair. It's like,
That's amazing.
oh,
What are
anyway,
you
it's
seeing
all,
in
yeah,
room for rent pad split? That's something a lot of people are talking about today. Why does that got
yeah,
you excited?
yeah. I like it for a couple reasons. I mean, one, I think it all right, let me tell a quick story. I live here in Hawaii, in Maui, and every winter the whales come. It's amazing. Like the big humpback whales come out by the thousands, and they're just out there in the water. And
Hmm.
I love to get on a paddleboard, and we call it whale hunting because it's a fun, cooler name than paddleboarding with whales. But we're whale hunting, and we
More
paddle out there.
manly. More manly.
Yeah, it's way more manly. We're gonna go hunt some whales today. So we get out there, we paddle about a mile out there, and we're trying to get a close encounter with a whale. Now the law is you can't get within 100 yards. You can't paddle to within 100 yards of a whale, and you can't on a boat. You can't get within 100 yards of a whale. But the whales
They don't know that.
ridiculously don't know the laws. Yeah, they don't know the laws. I don't know why. Nobody speaks whale, so the whales can come to you. So here's the workaround. You don't paddle to where the whale is. You'll miss it. It's moving. Whales move like in a direction. You paddle to where the whale is going. You get in front of it. Then the whale comes and it hits you. Not literally, but it gets next to you. And that's when they pop up. So getting out there in the water, almost every time I will get a close encounter within 30 feet of a whale because I just get in
Wow.
front of it. It's the coolest experience, by the way, in the entire world. And then when it gets close to you, when it gets real close, you take your paddle, you flip it upside down so the handle, is sticking down. You jump on the whale's back and you shove it in the blowhole, and then you ride that whale down. I'm just kidding. You don't
No,
do that.
I was gonna say, what are you doing? That's a joke,
Sorry.
folks.
That is a joke. That's a joke. Do not do that. I am going to get on every watch list in Hawaii of the guy who's
That's
stabbing
right. No
whales.
whales for you. No whales for you.
All right, but let me bring the metaphor full. So the whale, you got to get in front of it. Where is the American whale headed? And that is the affordability crisis getting worse and worse every year.
Exactly.
We talked about that earlier. I want to get in front of that. I want to be really good, world class at a thing that it's going to catch up and just hit hard. And I'm going to be there just with open arms to collect the cash.
Nice.
Pad split, I believe. And pad split's funny because it's kind of like Airbnb or Kleenex. Like Kleenex is tissue, but we all say Kleenex. Airbnb just means short-term rental, but we say Airbnb. Pad split, same way. I'm just saying it in a general term of co-living, but whatever. Pad split. So that is in the direct line of the whale that's coming. So are ADUs, but pad split offers more cash flow than ADUs. They're easier than assisted living, which is also a giant whale, right? All the old people retiring. That's a huge whale coming. But pad split's easier than assisted living, more cash flow than ADUs, and it's in the path of a whale. That is why I like it. The downside is that it is definitely gray area legally when it comes to a lot of the zoning areas of like occupancy rules. And they got some neat legal loophole workarounds that pad split operates within that are questionable, and we'll see if they all hold up in court. But I'm okay pushing the envelope a little bit there. Like,
like how many
like
non-relatives can live in a house and those kinds of things.
Yeah, there's all that. But what pad split basically does is they're like, listen, like the law, I just interviewed the CEO on my podcast. So like this is what we talked about. The law, if we want to get real legal definition, it's unrelated persons. You cannot have more than X amount of unrelated persons, usually 6 or 4. Let's tell that. Well, what's the definition of a person? In most states, the person, in all states but like 2, he said, a person is blah, 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 or a corporation, blah, 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 blah. So they say, unrelated persons is a corporation. So when you get a pad split, they form an LLC. They take care of this for you. And there is only one unrelated. There's only one person. There's only one person, quote unquote, living at the property, and that is an LLC.
Got it.
Now, if you're a member of the LLC, you're allowed to stay at the property, like a club or like a fraternity. And so therefore, that's how they skirt the law, and supposedly it's held up in court with them before, and so that's the loophole they go through. I don't know, but you know what? Airbnb, sorry, not Airbnb, they actually lost this strategy, but Uber, it was illegal to do taxis in New York City. Like you have to have a medallion or whatever, and Uber's like, yeah, whatever, we're just gonna do it anyway. And so Uber did, and it took years for the government in their slow nature to catch up and start fining and trying to put a stop to it. By that point, it was too big to stop, and so the laws had to be changed to allow Uber. So Uber went gray area and got massive scalability before the government could do anything about it. Airbnb tried to do the same thing in New York, and then New York still shut them down. So it doesn't always work, but that's what pad split I think is trying to do, is they're trying to go big enough that the government can't shut them down because they're literally solving the affordability crisis.
So again, I'm just so I don't do any of these yet, but I just had an epiphany, I think.
Yeah.
One of the things that I have seen coming is baby boomers who live in McMansions are eventually going to move on, right? Father
Agreed.
time's undefeated. And for a long time, there have been these questions about who the hell wants these McMansions because the kids don't want them. They're too big. However, if you go in now and you take this, I don't know, let's say it's a 5-bedroom, 4,000 square foot house, and suddenly it's an 8-bedroom, house, that could make a lot of sense.
It can make a ton of sense. Yeah. Cause and then you can really add a lot of bedrooms. I mean, 4,000 square feet would probably get you like 13 bedrooms. It's like insane what you can do in carving up a house into a bunch of rooms. A lot of people are shocked by this idea. I like to think of it though as I like to call them micro apartments.
Yeah,
it's like you just have a micro apartment. It's just like, you could have a giant apartment or you can have a micro apartment. Just you get a room, you get a bed, you get a, whatever, and you share a bathroom. Nothing weird about that. Europe's been doing it forever. So that is a solution. So, and what I love about it is that you can buy residential houses on the MLS and make it work. About 2 weeks ago, I bought a house in just outside Orlando, Florida, in Lakeland, Florida. It was listed on the market for $430 or $435, something like that. It had been dropped a couple times. It was a 2,700 square foot house, already remodeled, with room in the back for an ADU, by the way. So I'm kind of combining a couple strategies. But yeah, I bought that house for $410 is what we ended up getting it for on the MLS, just a normal real estate agent, nothing special. I literally looked at like 4 houses online and bought the one that I liked the most. And the things in a cash flow were projected at over $2,000 a month from the MLS. Like, it's insane. How many of those do you need to retire? And best of all, this is where it gets a little bit tough. If you can burr into a pad split, so you get your money back and you still get, let's call it $1,000 a month in cash flow. I mean, maybe not getting 2, but let's say you can get 1,000, which is what I'd shoot for minimum, but you have no money in the deal. Do that 10 times and you're out of your job. Like, okay,
well, you could even
for a few years.
You could just make it a house hack and just
you definitely could.
3.5%
you definitely
down.
Yep. You go 3.5% down, go into the thing, add a bunch of bedrooms, get the people moved in, move on to the next one, do it again and again.
Done.
That's why I like pad split. There's so many opportunities there. Now, managing it, yes, it's going to be hell, but
more people, more people, more drama.
More people, more drama. That person put their milk on my shelf in the fridge and it leaked and all that stuff. But that's why I like pad split, because pad split handles like 90% of the annoying tenant interaction.
Okay.
And then you can either hire a property manager to sit above them, or you can just self-manage. I'm going to hire a property manager. I don't want to deal with the 10% of problems that they can't deal with.
Exactly.
I'll get somebody else to deal with that.
Yeah. As I've never had anything but property managers. I haven't self-managed anything.
Oh, really? Yeah, dude, you're smarter than me. Way smarter.
I was not smarter. I just simply didn't have the time. And I didn't invest in my backyard either. So I invested 3 hours away. Yeah. So when you're looking for like your buy box today in Florida, did you have a minimum square foot? Because you've got to have some size to kind of get the bedroom, bathroom config.
Yeah. In fact, actually, that goes to another thing I like about the rent by the room model is that you can define your buy box and it's all public on the MLS, what that is. And that is like, I'm looking for houses that have usually 3 or 4 bedrooms, but at like, or 2, 3 or 4 bedrooms maybe, but at least 2,000 square feet, if not more. And you can just sort by that. You literally go to realtor.com, pull it up, say, I want 3 bedrooms, or whatever, 2 to 4 bedrooms. I want 2,500 square feet or more. And boom, there's a list of 50 of them. All right. Every one of those works for a pad split. You got to hit the right area, but like, there's a lot of options out there. So yeah, that's what I'm looking for is typically I want at least 2,000 square feet. Because what I want to get is like 8 bedrooms. I mean, really, all the profit is in the last bedroom or 2, if it makes sense. Like the first maybe 7 bedrooms are all going to pay the expenses and everything. So if you can get 6 bedrooms, you might be losing money. 7, you might be break even, but 9, you're making $2,000 a month in cash flow. It can scale that quickly. So now you don't want 20 bedrooms. Now it's a whole different. Well, I mean, you might. I know people building. You can build to rent these rent by the rooms, and that's super interesting because now you can design them with separate entrances for every unit. You can add
little
a bathroom
suites
for each unit. Everyone's a suite. So I know a guy building a 16 bedroom, 16 bathroom house.
Oh my God.
All with, and it's not a pretty, I mean, it's just a box, like it's just a box, but like, it's not meant to be pretty. You're not trying to get a cute homeowner to like their cute kitchen and their cute porch. Like, it's just for people who
solving a problem.
Yeah, solving a problem. You work at McDonald's or 7-Eleven or Walmart, Target, or what they say is like 50% of the US population who can't afford rent right now. That's all you're trying to do is give them safe, affordable, clean housing that's easy to get into, that doesn't have to, you don't have to have mass amounts of money and credit and all this stuff. You're solving a real problem, and it's a growing problem. It's a beautiful model. But we'll see how it works. I got 2 in the works right now that we're remodeling and getting them ready. So
both in Florida?
I'll report back next time.
There you go. Both in Florida or no?
One's in Florida, one's in Atlanta.
Okay. All right. So East Coast, Southeast.
Right now, I mean, Pad Split specifically is focused on that side of the country right now, and they're moving westward. Like they just launched Denver, and I think they just launched South LA maybe. Yeah, LA because of the fires. They launched it for that so they can, because that's a real solution to a problem. You lose your housing, hey, like you're a single person. There's a lot of single people out there that make less than $50,000 a year. Where are they going to live in California? It's a good solution.
Yeah, they talk about 14,000 houses being destroyed in LA, but folks, there's lots of apartment buildings that were hit as well.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point.
Yeah, so
terrible experience. Yeah, I just found out one of my favorite authors, Stephen Pressfield. He wrote a book called The War of Art. Anyway, his house burned down. I was like, oh dang, like that sucks. Yeah, wow.
You imagine? Yeah, I can't imagine.
Oh.
How's Hawaii doing? Because obviously you had
we had the fires too. Yeah, it's good. I mean, you wouldn't even notice it over on my side of the island. I mean, because I'm like 40 minutes, 30 minutes from Lahaina, but it's insane when you drive over there and like it's just not there anymore. It's like an entire town that's classic and iconic and that everyone's been to and I've eaten 100 times at restaurants. It's just gone. It's just, there's nothing. It's just flat. It's the weirdest, like you're like, it's like a different world. I don't know. It's like you're in the Upside Down or something from Stranger Things.
And how long, that was over a year ago or how long?
Yeah, a little over a year ago. And they're starting to build some houses. The first house was starting to be constructed, but it'll be a decade at least before that's put back to normal. Like it's going to take so much. I mean, here's the problem with Maui is like, they only could build like 100 houses a year. Like the infrastructure, being contractors on island, the number of like permits they can issue, the inspectors we have, all that. You can maybe build 100 houses a year on Maui, and we have 2,000 to build. Like, how do you do that? It's just, it's so overwhelmingly complicated. And then combine that with completely incompetent government, which is just every government, but especially Hawaii governments. They just can't seem to pull their head out of their backside. And so it's like there's hundreds, this is what's ridiculous. There's hundreds and hundreds of these little ADU homes that were shipped in after the fires. And like, you just see fields of them here in Maui, fields of them, of these homes that are brand new, like nice homes that are just tiny homes basically. And there's hundreds of people homeless and we can't solve that problem. We can't get the permitting, or the government can't let it be, oh, that one doesn't have the right, whatever connection to the sewer, whatever the problems are. We can't seem to figure out how to get hundreds of homeless people into these hundreds of homes that are sitting there for free that were shipped in to help because the government's incompetent. And that's just the entire US government, but it's a little bit worse and you can see it here. So anyway,
the other thing Hawaii's got, everything has to be shipped in. I mean, that's
yeah, everything does. Yeah.
Yeah. Lumber, steel.
It's an adventure.
Ugh. So give me some hope. Let's end this on a positive note.
Yeah.
How would Brandon end this on a positive note? Somebody wants to get wealthy, get to Financial Freedom Island. Let's leave them in a positive place.
Yeah, man. Oh, like you said, we said earlier, you have to believe it's possible because it is possible. And I think it's more possible than ever before to get financial freedom. However, mediocrity has no place in the market anymore. Like you have to be good. How do you get good? You got to focus, right? So like focus, do the work. You will get financial freedom faster than ever before. I'm going to be jealous at how fast you got financial freedom because it took me 10 years to get there. You're going to do it in 3 because I didn't have somebody yelling at me on a podcast to do what I'm telling you to do. And like, yeah, there's so much out there. And yeah, there's a lot of like ambiguity in the market. And what's AI going to do? And what is this going to do? And what is that going to do? But the one thing I know for sure is that the person who does nothing is going to be left out the most. So like, yes, AI might wipe everything we're doing completely away and we might all go live in the Matrix, but at least they can't take away the knowledge and the work ethic you built in the process. So do it anyway. Don't let the fear of the future hold you back. Just go all out, full tilt, make mistakes, make money, and adapt as needed.
Brandon, I want to say this at the end. You are amazing, very kind, very knowledgeable. I want to apologize for every time I've recorded and said, I hate Brandon Turner.
Oh, I deserve it, man.
It was mutually deserved. Let's just leave it at that. We both own part of that. And this was a lot of fun. Ryan Pineda, thanks for setting this up. And I apologize. So
dude, I accept and I apologize as well.
There you go, brother. Take care of yourself. Have a wonderful time in Hawaii. Enjoy pickleball.
All right. Thanks, man. See ya.